I think that the future would be very positive, and the idea of sustaining yourself and be able to live on whatever it is that they do is going to be definitely doable, so to speak. What do you think, Niki?
Well, I think that you're going to run into some resistance from them if they have the enforcement power that they say they have, and the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
Their rapid response team with NATO is a done deal. We've seen what they do in natural or unnatural disasters. The way that the federal teams and then the international teams come in and take over all your local resources and co-opt them and send them in directions that make no sense. I think that the opportunity to exist outside the system is going to be for just, that's almost an elite thing,
Yeah.
It's going to be a very few people. And then the people that have the best option of making it, to me, are what we call third world countries.
Oh, really?
who already know how to live off the grid.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and they know how to make their own huts. They know how to, find water, forage for, local vegetables or whatever, I think the Western countries are going to just fall like ripe fruit because they've been so trained into the lifestyle.
Yeah.
They don't want to give it up. People think I'm nuts for living in a tent. Absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I must be off my rocker, not, put the research aside.
Right.
Anti-Unitarian League and everything else. My lifestyle today is another piece of it. But I don't want to live in a HUD house. I don't want to spend 40, 50 hours working for somebody else right now. I don't.
Yeah.
I'd rather work as little as possible for them, get enough money to buy enough food and gas, get some wood, and do what I do. And I'm busy. It's not a lazy lifestyle
Sure, yeah.
that I've chosen.
Yeah.
But I also am using everything that I can that's already available. Okay.
Mm.
And trying to stock up on things. But all the new legislation in the U.S., I don't know what it's like in anywhere else, there's tons of executive orders and legislation. NEPA was one of them that they did in all the states, that they can confiscate you, your goods, and your property, everything,
Mm, yeah.
in the case of a national emergency. And now what they're calling with the financial crisis is not a national emergency. It's a national necessity or something like that. Gosh, I can't remember. I just put it on my blog the other day. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
No, well, they've actually changed the term. They have a new term.
Right.
It's their favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
It's tied into the financial crisis meeting on November 15th. They'll be using this term a lot. In fact, we'll probably see it in the news. It'll be headlines or whatever.
Interesting. Okay. Right.
Yeah, and then that's a different type of national emergency that requires these draconian new measures that they're going to have to pass. That, yes, people are going to have to tighten their belts, and here's how they're going to do it. You get to choose how to tighten your belt. and then if you don't agree, well, then now they have international reason to invade your neighborhood and arrest everybody.
Right. Sheesh.
So on that level, resistance. How do you stay out from under the grid? I mean, I'm next to this giant park, okay, that's empty except for them maybe out there. I don't know what's out there. And there's one little town out there, but there's no way I can go out and live in Wrangell St. Elias International Park,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even if I had the resources myself to do that kind of lifestyle, it's hard. That's like, you'll die out there. So where would we go? That's what people ask me all the time. It's like, I'm not living off the grid. I'm right on the main road. They put martial law in, and I've already seen the state of Alaska designations for the checkpoints, the 24-hour armed checkpoints on the roads. I know where one of them is going to be for sure.
Okay.
So it's right down the road for me. So they already know that too.
Do you think that this ever? I mean, because I guess that this was something that they would utilize in regards to if martial law or something like that was declared either in the state or on a nation scale in the entire United States. But do you think that is something that would happen here? Will things become so bad so that will actually be they will declare martial law and they will actually clamp down on people even more than they do now?
I don't call it that.
Right.
I think they'll just call it a national necessity.
Yeah, and people will think it's an excellent thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. What they do is they take the same exact program and name it something different, and it works.
Well, that's Frank Luntz, isn't it? The Words That Work. He was very prominent within working with many Republicans and I think Democrats as well, of just the science, if you will, of actually tossing around the words and making it into, like you said before, it becomes something that you can't like say no to. It's like the idea of sustainable development. How can you not be for that? So,
right, and like the idea of communitarianism. How can you not be for that?
Right.
If you don't know what it is exactly, then how can you be against it?
Right. Let's try it out for a while. You might like it. It's like.
Well, you already are one by default.
Right.
If you're not left and you're not right, then you are communitarian. Period.
Okay.
And so there, for all the people that left the left and left the right, said, I can't take none of this no more. It's all baloney. Yeah, by default, you're the third way. And they've tried to introduce it a couple different ways. It didn't go over that well. So they shut up about it and just did it. That's what I see.
Yeah, exactly. They just do it. They don't need to. They don't need to ask anyone for permission, right? They can just go ahead and do whatever that they want to do, correct?
Right, and that's what I don't understand. That's the piece that I don't understand. Really, is how they think that.
Well, exactly. But then we enter into the psychology of these people. Yeah, well, exactly, and their idea of their right to rule over us or what have you. But again, it's that idea that they've just taken themselves this position. They've just go ahead and done it. They didn't ask anyone for their position in a way. And what we do, our fault that I see, is that we allowed them to do that, and we give our power constantly away to these people. And in many cases, we also want to be governed, if you will. We want to be taken care of, like the government. We want to have every convenience at our hand. And it's.
It was explained to me by a PhD in crime mapping. Bill Granados, very nice man, came to visit me and explained to me how urban ideology is a big part of this. Urban redevelopment, urban renewal. In America, anyway, I don't know about over there, but over here, that was a big push, and how more and more people were moving to the cities, and the big suburbs that were growing around them, and that providing those people with services beyond basic utilities, but fire protection, police protection, the demands that the people themselves made living in these new suburbs that were growing up around the urban centers required an entirely new way of governing people. And that the people went along with it, because this is what I was told in Seattle, is that I had asked for the government to protect me. So I put a sign on my door that said, my life, my safety, my job, not the government's, because I had never grown up with that ideology. I'd never even heard it really, okay? What kind of propaganda they used in Russia after the Bolsheviks, to convince people to become members of the Communist Party.
Right.
Why turn in your neighbor for using more than their share? How did they get people to do that? Well, they taught them that, that's what good people do. Good people cooperate. Good people care about the community. Good people care about their neighbors. And the person who takes care of themselves, their family, they're not good people. They shouldn't even be able to have that family, I think, is what ended up happening over there, They took over everything. And Russia, they write openly about communitarianism, and so does Communist China. The communitarian laws that they have, they're on the books. You can look them up. This is the crazy thing to me about communitarianism, is it's actually the name of the law.
Right. Well, it isn't a big surprise really when you think of it. I mean, again, it's a communist regime or political structure that they're under, so it isn't far-fetched, so to speak, for them from their point of view, you know.
No, and when they first started talking about building the European Union in the 60s, it was totally open about what the program was and how communism would turn into communitarianism.
Mm-hmm.
The Jesuit priests in Brazil, I found them writing about how the Hegelian dialectic was at work here, and that it would eventually all turn into communitarianism. So there's been a lot written about it.
Mm.
But if you never heard of it, you never had any reason to go looking for it in the first place.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's where we're at now. We're like, I think that they wanted to introduce it in a way that it was already a done deal and no opposition, because it's supposed to be so perfect, you know.
Right. Well, that's another idea, isn't it? To just to actually change people's perception about it, and also, train people, so to speak, enough in advance so that when you approach the stage, when you kind of officially declare something or what have you, then people won't object to it, because actually they resonate very much with the ideology and actually want it on some level, you know.
Because it's cloaked in really nice terms.
Yeah.
They only have to kill a few people. They only have to become the slave trader just for a while. Even when they do admit it, when they do admit that there will be some people who just won't go along with it, and they'll have to be eliminated, because it's eugenics too.
Right, yeah.
That whole theory that, some people are more advanced than others, and it's another one of the New Age concepts, the advanced soul, I've been here many times, Nikki, I know, that I've had different people tell me different things about how, so I think that desire in people to be one of the chosen few, or that your belief system is going to guarantee you a better life, or something, maybe in the afterlife or maybe here, But I think that's the appeal of the theory, is that what's best for other people because you become enlightened. Right.
Huh. Well, that's a really interesting perspective, to watch this, and definitely have that in mind as we probably can see the rise and the popularity, as it were, of the New Age basically coming in, and under the guise of that, I think we'll have many horrible things. Again, it's all about the perception. If they can manage to change that, and they can bring it in with whatever words they want to, but at the end of the day, it's what matters is their actions and not their words. So we have to just keep an eye on these guys and see what the heck they're up to. And I think that this is a good place, Niki, to begin to round things up here for this time. And I do want to leave the last few minutes to you again, so you can mention your website, of course, but also some of the material that you have out there, some of your books, so people can dig further into some of your research.
Oh, okay. Well, a summary of the Anti-Communitarian League website is our book called 2020, Our Common Destiny, with a Canadian perspective, a Canadian perspective by Paul Barnes, one of our contributors. He's actually an independent candidate right now in Canada, and I'm hoping to get an English perspective on that too. I'm talking to people in London, and eventually around the world. It's the type of book that it's not just about the United States, it's about the whole plan, and it's how I found it in the United States, and then I'm having people contribute how they found it, and what it means in Canada and elsewhere. Nordica designed it so that it could grow. It's a very small book now. It's 126 pages, I think, and quite a bit of it is about the law, communitarian law, and how it is used to change, local regulations and things like that. And then the Anti-Communitarian Manifesto is our thesis